evening and welcome to the evening news for today, Monday, May 8, 2023. I am Jemima Holmes. Thank you for tuning in. Now let's take a look at some of the lead stories tonight. Stabbed and then ran over by car, Sir Mars brutally murdered. ESSEQUIBO Coast pedestrian killed after struck down by ambulance driver. Alpha Hotel murder, woman killed for refusing to tell kids of reunion with suspect. PAC probes 115.9 million still unreconciled in post office's books, and MOU signed with Indian firm to begin millet cultivation in Guyana. Now for the news in detail. Popular entertainer and educator Sir Mars was last evening brutally murdered by someone with whom he reportedly shared a close relationship. In our lead story tonight, Tasia Dickinson reports that the man was stabbed about his body, and whilst trying to escape the attack, he was run over and crushed by a vehicle being driven by the suspect.
51-year-old Kerwin Sean Mars, a popular educator and entertainer, was on Sunday evening killed outside of an apartment building at Providence, East Bank, Demerara. The police report states that Mars was in his vehicle in the company of a male friend. At around 22:30 hours, the duo was inside the vehicle, which was parked outside of an apartment building in Providence, when they began to argue. Police said as a result, both parties armed themselves with knives and dealt each other wounds. Mars exited the vehicle in an attempt to escape, but the suspect reversed the car onto the victim, pinning him to the fence of a house. The vehicle was later removed with the assistance of the fire service, and the lifeless body of Mars was seen with his face braced against the fence. There were lacerations to the face, head, hand, shoulder, forehead, above the left eye, right side chest, and back. Speaking to the evening news on Monday, Mars's younger brother, Kester Mars, shared that on Sunday evening he received a call from his brother whilst he and the suspect were involved in their argument.
About 5 minutes after, some persons came to my residence and told me that my brother got murdered in Providence. So I went over there and called the police. When I went over there, I saw him under his vehicle, both wheels off the ground. One was rest on him, and the engine was still running, and the driver door was open. He didn't tell me where he was going, where he went. He just called me to say, he didn't call me to say anything, he just called. I overheard him having a conversation with somebody. He was saying, come in the car. The person saying, you call somebody, you call somebody. And I thought he dialed a wrong number. But that was it.
He shared that his brother has been an educator for over 30 years, and he does not want to speculate why anyone would want to harm him. Meanwhile, police have recovered 2 knives from the crime scene. Up to news time, the suspect, whose identity has not been disclosed, remained at large. Tasia Dickinson for the evening news.
As police prepare their case against the suspect in the Alpha Hotel murder, investigators have determined the shocking reason why the businessman killed his wife during one of their frequent rendezvous at the East Coast Demerara establishment. Here is Tasia Dickinson again with the details.
Crime Chief Wendell Blanham has informed that despite being separated for several months, Kim Halley and her husband, Junior Halley, used to meet once a week at the Alpha Hotel at Ogle on the east coast of Demerara to spend quality time together. It was on May 4th, during one of their frequent meetings, that the man brutally murdered the woman, stabbing her 13 times about her body. The crime chief explained to this newscast that on the day in question, the suspect requested that the woman inform their children that everything was okay between them and that they had reconciled. But the woman was reluctant to heed to the man's request, thus an argument ensued between them which ultimately turned deadly. According to Blanham, the businessman of Maikoni, East Coast Demerara, during the argument whipped out a knife and fatally stabbed the woman. After committing the crime, he reportedly joined a minibus and went to the seawall where he offered a junkie $1,000 for his shirt. At the time, his shirt was soaked in blood. Upon getting the shirt, he went to the police officers' training complex where he surrendered. Hotel employees had told investigators that they heard screams coming from the room but did not went to investigate. In fact, The woman's battered body was only discovered by an employee who noticed the room door ajar and went to inform the couple to close it. Upon doing so, the employee made the gruesome discovery. Meanwhile, the suspect is expected to be soon charged with the capital offense of murder. Tassia Dickinson, The Evening News.
3 persons who have been suffering from mental illnesses have been remanded for the recent murder, which occurred at the National Psychiatric Hospital at Fort Kanji, Region 6. Our Burpees correspondent, Andrew Carmichael, reports.
Remanded are Curtis Robertson, 31, a farmer of Golden Fleece, West Coast Berbice, Kellon Cadogan, 29, of Wisma Linden, and Mark Simon, 36, self-employed of Vyman's Irving, New Amsterdam. They are accused of killing 32-year-old Danish Passad of Bat Settlement, West Coast Berbice, who was only an inmate of the institution for 2 days prior to his demise. On Monday, the trio appeared at the New Amsterdam Magistrates Court before Magistrate Vanita Singh and were not required to plead to the indictable charge. It is alleged that on April 19 they murdered Danish at the National Psychiatric Hospital. During the court hearing, Robertson told the court what he knew about the incident. He also told the court that it was the second time he was charged with a crime. He said he was charged previously with breaking into his own home. Police prosecutor Lance Corporal Ryan Jatan told the court that the police had not completed their investigation and asked for 6 weeks to seek legal advice. The 3 were remanded until June 12th when the court will decide on the way forward based on advice from the Director of Public Prosecutions. It had been reported that on April 19, the lifeless body of Passad was taken to the New Amsterdam Hospital and dumped with no information being provided by personnel from the psychiatric facility. Police had reported that he died sometime between 1 hour and 7 hours 30 on April 19th at the National Psychiatric Hospital. An autopsy performed on the victim's body found that he died from shock along with cerebral hemorrhage due to a fractured skull. Andrew Carmichael, The Evening News.
A 52-year-old man is now dead after he was struck down by a motor car whilst crossing the road at Adventure, ESSEQUIBO Coast in Region 2. Dead is Budira Kusial, also known as Dumb Boy, who lived alone at Adventure. Reports are that Kusial, who has a speech impairment, had remigrated to Guyana from Venezuela. Police said at around 1950 hours last evening, the man was crossing the road when he was knocked down by a motor car PSS 150, which was being driven by an ambulance driver. The pedestrian received injuries about his body and was picked up in an unconscious condition by the driver and other public-spirited persons. He was transported to the Suddy Public Hospital where he was pronounced dead on arrival. The driver was arrested and is in custody assisting with the investigation. Meanwhile, police are currently investigating the attempted execution committed on 42-year-old police prosecutor Himchan Suknal, whose minibus was shot at. The alleged shooting incident occurred in the vicinity of Conversation Tree along the Rupert Craig Highway at around 20:06 hours on Saturday. According to reports, the police corporal who resides at Craig on the east bank of Demerara was on his way to work in his RZ minibus PHH 6880 when gunmen opened fire from a Premio motor car that pulled up alongside him at a traffic light. The bullet reportedly hit the driver's door, thus causing the glass to shatter and result in a minor laceration to his left ankle. The gunmen fled the scene at high speed, heading east on the Rupert Craig Highway. A team of CID ranks was immediately dispatched to process the scene, and after conducting their initial investigation, a wirehead was recovered from the door of the minibus. This is the second attempt made on the prosecutor's life, with the previous attempt occurring in November 2021 when gunmen had opened fire on his East Bank Demerara home, leaving his family fearful for their lives. At the time, police had suspected that the gun attack might have stemmed from one of the cases he had prosecuted, but it remains unclear if anyone was arrested for the previous incident. We now tell you that a yet-to-be-identified male is now dead while one of his accomplices was arrested after crashing a motor car at Land of Canaan, East Bank Demerara shortly after stealing the vehicle. The third man reportedly escaped from the wrecked car. The accident reportedly occurred at about 2:15 on Sunday. The 3 men reportedly relieved the drunken driver of his motor car in the vicinity of the Suicide Junction, East Bank Demerara. The driver, who was partying, was too drunk to drive home, hence he parked his vehicle vehicle in the corner of the roadway where he fell asleep. After removing the drunken man from the vehicle, the carjacker sped off, but while in the vicinity of Baker Hughes, the driver reportedly lost control and collided with a utility pole. As a result of the accident, the driver died on the spot. One of the men reportedly exited the car and attempted to escape, but collapsed due to the injuries he received. He was subsequently collected by the police and taken to the Diamond Hospital, where he was admitted under guard. Coming up, MOU signed with Indian firm to begin millet cultivation in Guyana, and 20% of Guyana's lands to be owned by Indigenous communities, says Sukai. Do stay with us. More news ahead.
Miss Anne! Miss Anne!
Oh, hi, darling.
Help me out with this thing, man. You just know everything. What's all this talk about local government election?
Local government refers to the mayor and councillors who manage the affairs of our towns, like Georgetown, and the chairman and councillors of the Neighborhood Democratic Council.
Oh, but why is that important to me?
Dolly, it is very important. Every day, local government officials make decisions that affects you, your family, and the community. They serve the people within the community in which they were elected.
Oh, Miss Anne, me not understand all them big words you use there. Tell me what local government does do.
All right, darling. Local government is responsible for maintaining and protecting public property, like our community centers and the playgrounds, for collecting the garbage, maintenance of the streets, cleaning of the drains and the carpets, and so much more.
Oh, I now understand. Thanks, Miss Anne.
You're welcome.
I'm gonna show off for me friends them why I will vote at the local government elections.
That's a good thing. Let's go.
Monday, June 12, 2023 is Local Government Elections Day. For further information, contact GCOM or visit the GCOM website at www.gcom.org.gy.
Just so good, cheesy's the taste, it's just so good. Cheesy's are the one and only. So cheesy, crunchy, give me one please. Sunshine snacks, cheesy's, it's just so good. The whole crowd that's a cheesy, so cheesy, just so good. Yes, fella, can you feel me? Sunshine snacks, just so good. Number one taste, the whole place I say, just so good. Cheesy's the taste, it's just so good. Cheesy's are the one and only. So cheesy, crunchy, give me one please. Sunshine snacks, cheesy's, it's just so good.
Play and win with Superbet. Visit an agent near you to play all your favorite games. Superbet, your best bet. Must be 18 years and older. Terms and conditions apply. Play responsibly.
Sally's Boutique is the place to shop when looking for quality high-end men and women footwear, wristwear, wallets, and clothing. Follow us on Instagram, Sally's Boutique GY. We're located at Charlotte Street between Camp and Wellington Streets. Contact us on 231-7519. That's 231-7519. WhatsApp 613-9578. That's 613-9578. Sally's Boutique, the new home of Clarks.
Welcome back. You're watching the evening news. A sum of almost $116 million, which has been unreconciled on the books of the Guyana Post Office Corporation for years and was flagged in the Auditor General's 2019 report, was interrogated by the Public Accounts Committee during a statutory sitting today. Gerald Bryan tells us more.
During Monday's sitting of the Public Accounts Committee, the Auditor General's 2019 findings on the Ministry of Social Protection was examined. Surprisingly, it was found that the Guyana Post Office Corporation had still not reconciled $115.9 million on its books, which has been brought forward several years. Permanent Secretary Shaniel Hussein Autar said that the ministry is opening a new account in order to balance the books, but $115.9 million is still outstanding. Public Works Minister and PAC Member 1 Edgel questioned why this was the case.
Is it because we can't find vouchers? Is it because we have unpresented vouchers from the post office? Is it because of at the end of every day, all the vouchers are listed, the totals are done, some sheet is not properly prepared? Why do we still have 150 billion that is unreconciled? What steps are being made to address this? What occurred that led to this unreconciled? Because there's a particular time that the post office and the ministry has to make sure reconciliation is done. They got their bank balances to reconcile, you have your bank balances to reconcile.
I am advised by Ms. Dinley, who is here and can speak as well, that the cash books going back years were not balanced properly, were not prepared properly.
Meanwhile, it was further clarified by ministry staff that no reconciliation was being done between the then Ministry of Human Services and the Post Office for a number of years. However, Edgel pointed out that a mechanism was set up to have the books balanced that should have been followed.
So we had a fraud at the post office with relation to payment of old age pension. The Auditor General and the Accountant General could speak to this matter. The post office accounts were not audited for decades. We were able to start a process of auditing and getting the books up to date. And an agreement was made that we will have to draw the red line at some point, and then we start a new process from there. Are you telling me that red line was drawn and the new process is still producing this?
Auditor General Deodat Sharma meanwhile disclosed that efforts were made to work with the post office, but those efforts had been stalled.
Mr. Chair, just to let you know that we have worked with the audit of the accounts of the Guyana Post Office Corporation up to 2021, but it's a disclaimer up to now. So it's still a disclaimer and we still have issues. So the next step is that we have to do a check between the Ministry of Finance and the Ministry of Social Protection and the Post Office to determine what is the true position in terms of who owe who. And that will determine, we'll have to get the assistance of the Internal Audit Department, the Ministry of Finance, which I spoke to the Finance Secretary already. I think this is a balance brought forward to several years and has unreconciled. The Ministry of Social Protection was trying to work on some of the differences, but I don't think it's moving forward because the information the Post Office is providing is uncertain.
Jarrell Bryan, The Evening News.
The Agriculture Ministry has signed a memorandum of understanding with an Indian firm, paving the way for trials to commence for millet cultivation. Here are the details from Rupa Sinarain.
The undertaking will see Indian-based UPL Limited providing technological and agricultural inputs, while the Guyana government, through the Agriculture Ministry, will assist with developing approximately 200 acres for the cultivation of millets. During the signing ceremony, Agriculture Minister Zulfikar Mustafa expressed satisfaction at the commencement of this partnership. He noted that Guyana was leading the agriculture agenda in CARICOM in keeping with the region's Vision 25 by 2025 and that millets would contribute significantly to those efforts. Millets are a highly varied group of small-seeded grasses, widely grown around the world as cereal crops or grains and human food. In March, Minister Mustafa had visited India and participated in a roundtable discussion at the Global Millet Conference with his Indian counterpart Narendra Singh and other ministers from across the world. Discussions circled on fostering millets production in countries like Guyana to increase food security. Prior to that, President Irfan Ali, during a virtual address at the inauguration of the Global Millet Conference in New Delhi, India, disclosed that Guyana will soon commence cultivation trials for millet production in regions 4, 9, and 10 to support a transition to large-scale production of the seed locally. Meanwhile, UPL is a global plant health and seed company headquartered in Mumbai, India. Rupa Sinarain, the evening news.
Amerindian Affairs Minister Pauline Sukai has announced that when outstanding applications are processed for land titling or expansion, some 20% of Guyana's lands will be owned by Indigenous peoples. Here is Rupasina Ryan again with the details.
During a recent press conference, Amerindian Affairs Minister Pauline Sukai shared that in the pre-independence era, 74 villages were identified for titling, but this number has increased over the decades. With titling and expansion restarted since government took office in 2020, more lands are now being owned by Indigenous communities.
Now we're speaking about 112 villages that we have advance forward. So we have added to what was legislated. And now that we've added to that, we are also extending. So we were able to demonstrate to them that even though in the time, the pre-independence period, we had 74 villages that were identified and were recommended for ownership or title. Today, we have moved past that, where we're addressing extension for land or of lands for those communities now. Our projection that by the time we complete extension of all the applications we have, we'll be close to about 20% of Guyana land mass being not awarded but being owned absolutely and forever by Indigenous people.
She also asserted that free, prior, and informed consent, which is a specific right that pertains to Indigenous peoples and is recognized in the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, is always adhered to by government.
The lack of FPIC is a non-issue basically, because you can't have an Amerindian Affairs Ministry with a whole established staff that does not speak with the Indigenous people or does not work with them nor does not engage them, because we don't work in isolation. We work as a true partnership with the National Tushaus Council and the Village Council and the people themselves.
A $500 million allocation was made in Budget 2023 for land titling in Amerindian communities. At that time, she reported that her ministry demarcated 7 villages and issued 5 certificates of title to villages in under 2 years. In addition, it has completed a revision of 23 investigative reports to date. The ministry will be pursuing 19 demarcations and 11 extensions in 2023. Rupa Sinarayan, The Evening News.
And now for a look at the bridge reports.
The Demerara Harbor Bridge is scheduled to be closed on Tuesday, May 9th at 5:45 hours for a period of 1.5 hours. Meanwhile, the Berbice River Bridge is scheduled to be closed on Tuesday, May 9th at 7:55 hours for a period of 1.5 hours.
President Ali urges corporate support for national football teams, and East Coast Academy romps to Tiger Rentals U13 Championships. Details of these stories and more in the Sportcast, sponsored by MacCorp, coming up on the other side of the break.
Come visit us on Waterloo Street. John Lewis style.
Why you must vote at local government elections. Local government officials make decisions every day that affect the well-being of your life, the lives of your family and community. By voting for a voluntary group, political party or individual candidate of your choice, you will be electing the people who will make these very important decisions. If you don't vote, then you allow other people who do vote to choose local government officials without your input. Those others may not share your views about issues that matter to you. Voting also provides you with an opportunity to remind the elected government officials that they are accountable to you. Every eligible citizen has the right and responsibility to vote at local government elections. Monday, June 12, 2023, is Local Government Elections Day. For further information, contact GCOM on 225-0277-9, 226-6557, 223-9650, or visit the GCOM website at www.gcom.org.gy.
Looking to bring your dream home to reality? Or simply taking on a home improvement project? Then National Hardware Limited is where you should start. Let us put that touch to your home. Choose from over 1,000 Berger Paint original hues for any surface. We are known for our trusted brands such as Westinghouse, Philips, Sadco, Rubbermaid, Pyrex, Gibson Home, and so much more. National Hardware Limited, your do-it-best store. Located in downtown Georgetown and industrial site Rhymeville.
Moving, lifting, or bending, whatever the job, we at Sylvie's Variety Store have the right tools to make it happen. Pallet jacks and hand trucks for bonds and industrial sites, easy pickup and convenient maneuvers. Chain hoist from Roughneck and Northern Industrial, the perfect solution to lifting heavy objects. And then there's the 12-ton and 16-ton hydraulic pipe benders from 1/2 to 2 inch. We also stock the shop press machine from Northern Industrial. Sylvie's Variety Store stocks the tools to make it happen.